Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2004 comedy titled Soul Plane. Now, Soul Plane runs for 86 minutes long. It is directed by Jessy Terrero. It is produced by David Scott Rubin and Jessy Terrero. The script was written by Chuck Wilson and Joe Zenga. The score was done by RZA and Christopher Leonards. The cinematography by Jonathan Sella, and the editing was done by Michael Miller. And the stars of the movie are Kevin Hart, Tom Arnold, Method Man, Snoop Dogg, Arielle Keibbel, Loni Love, Monique, Sofia Vergara, Ryan Pinkston, Terry Crews, and also cameo appearances from the Yin Yang Twins, Lil Jon, and a whole bunch of other artists in the R&B, hip hop, rap industry seem to make it their small cameos, their little fun in the sun, so to speak, so to speak. So, while putting in the efforts of spoofing the 1970 film classic Airport, as well as the spoof of the movie Airport Airplane, Soul Plane freely utilizes stereotypical jive lingo as an homage to 1970s blaxploitation films, and it has its share of slightly amusing moments, but however, the final product falls flat, and it's actually quite tedious in terms of detail. The story tells the tale of sadly unlucky airplane passenger by the name of Nashawn Wade, played by Kevin Hart, who's had the worst airplane flight of his lifetime. His dog was regarded as a checkout baggage. The food in on the flight was gross. Plus, his behind was stuck in the crapper during turbulence. And if that's not enough, his dog gets sucked into the jet engine due to a stewardess's careless ways. Nashawn eventually sues the airline with a whopping amount of money of close to $100 million, and it was granted to him. So what does he do with the money? With that amount of restitution, he establishes his own airline company, the NWA, Nashawn Wade Airlines. NWA has a certain wink to it. So, the abbreviations have a certain wink to something straight out of Compton. The airline definitely caters to African Americans and the hip hop lifestyle. Even the terminal is named Malcolm X. And the airlines come complete with hydraulics, spinners, and even a dance nightclub. Surely Nashawn shouldn't have another troubled airline, right? Of course not. Oh, and one more thing. Don't call him Shirley. In the spoof of the disaster film Airplane, it went all out of its way in lampooning all the seriousness that Airport possessed. They definitely truly showed no apologies to its audience who felt offended by saying, you can't be serious all the time. Fun should definitely play an important role in life. And yes, the movies are supposed to be, full of fun. When it comes to being in serious movies, yes, we have to be serious. But in comedy, we can let it all out. We can all have fun. And you know what? I'm all about fun. But what made Soul Plane, but the thing of the matter is that Soul Plane was anything but fun. It was fucking tedious. And what really made Soul Plane so irksome was that it was lampooning a film that was already a parody of another film, which makes everything seem odd and really completely totally out of place. I mean, yes, okay, so NWA Airlines is completely catered and favored towards the African American ethnic group, and anything outside of that area, you will be treated as inferior and insignificant. And that, of course, relates to Tom Arnold and his lovely family, who also seems to be called, who also, in a sheer twist of irony, their character's last name is Hunky. Enough said. It's just filled with long, non-stop, unfunny cliches after another. And a lot of the characters who could potentially be really good performers, I think they did this on purpose to make themselves look and feel bad. Because obviously the audience did not find anything humorous. I certainly didn't find anything that remotely humorous. Even though I think one of the big weaknesses is that they tried too hard to be funny, but it just failed on a lot of levels. So what really made Soul Plane irksome was that it was lampooning a film that was already a parody of another film, which makes everything seem odd and really out of place. The sentiments in this film is handled with a superficial texture in the script that is only manifested by its insensitive approach, which seems very accepted in its delivery. So it's okay to just go around making fun of something that isn't African American. I mean, didn't African Americans strive to not be exploited or stereotyped or cliched? And yet this movie does everything they can to make themselves look cliched and to make other ethnic groups cliched. And it's just completely painful to watch sometimes. The gratingly long scene in Soul Plane deals with Nishan's awkward moment while he's stuck on the toilet and the loss of his dog, plus the overlong court case settlements. At first glance, screenwriters Chuck Wilson and Joe Zanga seem to be aiming towards a human emotional comedy where we do take pity for Nishan and his misfortunes. And yes, I do take pity for him that he had a horrible flight on the plane and that his dog eventually died due to one's carelessness. Yes, it's a terrible experience, but I just wish it would have been handled a lot better. but it just turned out to be just a distraction, just so that every hip hop artist and every comical actor could have his or her fun in the sun. And in the end, it just looked like an overextended long MTV music video. That's all it was. And in the end, it just feels flat and totally forgettable. But this scene is only just a small detour for Soul Plane to fall into an array of politically incorrect humor and scenes that truly generate laugh out loud moments. Even though Nashon's misfortunes tend to go on for too long, it's really, they actually, believe it or not, the only funniest scenes in the movie. Yes, I know it shouldn't be really a thing to go ahead and laugh at people's misfortunes, but that was out the only scenes that got me engaged. The rest of the way, this whole NWA Airlines thing was bogus. It didn't offer anything enlightening. It didn't offer anything exciting. All it was just a bunch of badly drawn stereotypes, caricatured individuals, and most of them, I think, just deliberately or on purpose, deliberately delivered bad lines, almost as if nobody really even cared that they were being stereotyped. What differs Soul Plane from Airplane is that the focal characters are around the passengers as opposed to the crew. The only exception is around NWA flight captain Antoine Mack, played by Snoop Dogg. As he's trying to overcome his fear of heights, a stewardess named Blanca, played by Sofia Vergara, gets into the melee where one of the more famous tropes in a disaster film is to have the civilian save the day. Yes, in every disaster film, it's not about a specialist who saves the day, it's just an average civilian who has to end up picking up the remainders and to eventually become the interim leader of a group or a faction. So the way that it ends, like Captain Mac eventually supposedly ODs on the deck, and he looks like he's dead. The passengers on the flight look like they're ready to crash. But just like in every comedy and every parody, everyone survives and everybody lives happily ever after. The good conquers the bad in all of its cliched gloriness. Most of the film's plot seems to veer vaguely into the lives of the other people on the plane. The only Caucasian family on the flight are the Hunkies. Racist humor? No. But, however, any film that stars a more calmer Tom Arnold character who plays Elvis Hunky, well, I guess there is some credit for doing something right. In fact, you want to know something? Tom Arnold was actually the only character, aside from Kevin Hart, who seemed to actually play, who actually were the best performers in this movie. Everybody else was either underdeveloped or were just used for stereotypical humor, which of course sets people back, way back. It was just at times really, really that frustrating to watch. But at least Kevin Hart, yes, you take pity and sorrow for him. You know, he had a horrible experience, and we feel bad for him. Tom Arnold, I'll have to say this, I'm not his biggest fan, but at least he actually showed signs that he actually did care about the role he played, even if his role was just as stupid as everybody else's. I think the character that really, really pissed me off the most was was Ryan Pinkston's character. I think his name was Billy. Oh yeah, one minute he's this uber bespectacled, this uber bespectacled intellectual kid. All of a sudden, he gets onto the NWA Airlines, and all of a sudden, he's become like a nerdy teenage Eminem. Like all of a sudden, he becomes a wannabe. I also didn't care too much for Mr. Hunky's daughter, played by Arielle Keibbel. I think her name was Heather. Anyhow, even I couldn't care too much for her. Oh, she kind of plays the role as the teenager, the stereotypical teenage girl who doesn't want to be daddy's little girl. She's 17, she's going on 18, and she wants to do whatever she wants. She doesn't want daddy's approval, and she wants to do all kinds of sexual activities like roll the salami, tea bagging, pocket polo, you know, that kind of stuff. After all, she is 17 going on 18. But you get what I'm saying. You dig? Sorry about that. But you know, it was just so aggravating. But at least they did something right, and that was to have Tom Arnold play a much more subtle character than his usual movies that he seems to cater off of playing over the top characters in a lot of stuff he does. So at least it was actually refreshing to see something like that, to see him play a more restrained character who did not come across as being annoying, stereotypical, or just plain disgusted. I can't say the same for everyone else. The acting was just atrocious. So, though he has starred in bigger and better things in his career, Kevin Hart has claimed that Soul Plane was pivotal in the jumpstart of his career, and to his credit, he does deliver a serviceable acting job. Sadly, the film is just poorly submitted, and it just wastes the talent here who have poured their heart out into making the film work. This is one film that just really was not ready for takeoff. I think that, you know, I'm not here to say that directing debut of Jessy Terrero was a bad thing. I'm not trying to put him down in any way. Maybe the guy needs a little more time to grow. But if he needs time to grow, he better start doing some growing and fast. Because this movie will not do him very much service. I'm sorry to say. I'm not trying to be a cynical prude. I'm not trying to deter anybody who liked the movie. If you like this kind of comedy and you like stereotypes and badly cliched characters, and if you wish to come up and tell me to lighten the fuck up, feel free to do so. but I just did not enjoy this movie at all. If you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. That's as long as, as I always say, I got no room for rudeness. So feel free, but I just didn't think that this movie really, really struck the right chord on me. But then again, this is just my opinion. Everybody else's opinion, you're all entitled to it. So with that, so when all's said and done, I have to give Soul Plane, and maybe I might be being a bit generous. I can't really give it too much of a high score, so I'll have to give it a 5. I did laugh at a few things, but it just was really, really poorly stereotyped, poorly cliched, and it felt more like an extended music video on MTV. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Rutrider saying, keep watching those movies. And I'll see you around. Goodbye.